The fisherman who was meant to be king. The village was surrounded by tall grasses, scattered acacia trees, and ancient baobabs whose branches stretched toward the sky like the arms of elders blessing the land. At sunrise, cooking fires came alive outside the clay homes. Women prepared millet porridge and roasted yams. Farmers carried baskets of maize and cassava toward their fields, while fishermen pushed their wooden canoes into the river. Among those fishermen lived a young man named Kelan. Kelan was poor, but he was strong and kind. His small hut stood near the river, its roof patched with dried grass. His canoe was old, and several cracks ran along its wooden sides. His fishing net had been repaired so many times that it seemed more like knots than rope. Every morning, Kelan rose before the sun. He would carry his net to the river, push his canoe into the water, and paddle toward the deeper part of the stream. Kelan was not the village's best fisherman. Some days he returned with only 2 or 3 fish. Some days, he returned with nothing. Yet whenever another fisherman came back empty-handed, Kelan shared whatever he had. One morning, an old fisherman named Doro sat beneath a tree with his empty basket. Kelan approached him. "Father Doro, take this." The old man looked inside Kelan's basket. "But these are almost all you caught." Kelan smiled. "I can fish again tomorrow." Doro shook his head. "You have a strange heart, Kelan." Kelan laughed. "Why?" "Because you give away what another man would hide." Kelan simply shrugged. "A stomach filled alone is still a hungry heart." The elders often watched him from beneath the great baobab tree. Among them was Elder Moko, an old man with a slow voice and sharp eyes. Whenever Kelan passed, Moko would quietly say, "There is something in that young man that even he does not know." But Kelan knew nothing about kings or palaces. As far as he understood, he was simply the son of a fisherman. His father had supposedly died when Kelan was very young. His mother had died soon afterward. He had grown up alone among ordinary villagers. Or at least, that was what he believed. Far beyond the hills stood the kingdom of Varemi. It was a prosperous kingdom ruled by an aging king named Varemi. King Varemi had ruled for many years. His palace stood on a high hill overlooking the kingdom, surrounded by tall walls, gardens, carved wooden pillars, and white courtyards. But there was a secret inside the palace that only a handful of people knew. The king had a son who had been sent away many years earlier. One evening, King Varemi sat beside a small fire in his private chamber. His oldest counselor, Meko, stood nearby. The king stared into the flames. "Meko," he said, "tell me something." "Yes, your majesty." "What makes a good king?" The counselor thought carefully. "Strength." The king shook his head. "Wealth." Again, the king shook his head. "Then wisdom." The king looked into the fire. "Wisdom is important. But even a wise man can become cruel when he has never known hunger." The counselor remained silent. King Varemi continued. "When I was young, I believed that being born into royalty made me better than ordinary people." He touched the wooden pendant hanging around his neck. "So when my son was born, I made a decision that broke my heart." The counselor lowered his head. "You sent him away?" "Yes." "You wanted him to understand the lives of the people." "I wanted him to learn humility." The king's voice became weak. "I wanted him to know what it meant to walk with his hands. To struggle. To lose. To share. To depend on others." And now, the king looked toward the palace doors. "Now I am old." He took a long breath. "It is time for my son to come home." The next morning, the king summoned a trusted messenger. He gave him a small drawing of a wooden pendant. "Find the young man who carries this." "Where shall I search?" "Go to Tolima." The messenger bowed. "And when you find him?" The king looked away. Tell him the truth. One afternoon, Kelan returned from the river carrying a small basket of fish. A stranger was waiting outside his hut. The man wore the clothing of a royal messenger. Kelan stopped. "Can I help you?" The messenger looked carefully at the wooden pendant around Kelan's neck. His expression changed. "Where did you get that?" Kelan touched it. "My mother gave it to me." The messenger stepped closer. "Young man, you must come with me." "Where?" "To Varemi." Kelan laughed. "Why would the king want a fisherman?" The messenger did not smile. "Perhaps the king knows something about you that you do not know yourself." Kelan's smile disappeared. "I don't understand." "Neither will you until you come." Kelan refused. He had never left Tolima for more than a few days. The village was all he knew. He went to Elder Moku for advice. The elder listened quietly. When Kelan finished speaking, Moku looked toward the river. "Have you ever seen a river refuse to follow its path?" "No." "Why?" "Because the river must continue." The elder nodded. "Then go." Kelan frowned. "What if this is a trap?" "Then you will discover it." "What if the king wants to punish me?" "Then you will face him." "And what if my life changes?" Elder Moku smiled. "My son, every journey changes the feet that make it." So Kelan packed his few belongings. He carried a small cloth bundle, his fishing knife, and the wooden pendant his mother had given him. Then he left Tolima. For the first time in his life, Kelan traveled beyond the hills. When Kelan finally reached Varemi, he could hardly believe what he saw. The palace stood high above the kingdom. Its walls were decorated with carved animals, birds, suns, and trees. People walked through wide courtyards carrying baskets of fruit, woven cloth, clay pots, and food.